London, November 29, 2002. Royal Albert Hall. Prince stood at the edge of the stage while Lynne played the guitar solo on While My Guitar Gently Weeps. 5,272 people watched a beautiful, competent performance. Then Prince stepped forward. He didn't ask permission. He didn't wait for his turn. He just started playing. And for the next 3 minutes and 27 seconds, the entire music industry forgot how to breathe. What happened that night, when Prince launched into the greatest guitar solo in rock history 1 week after Rolling Stone left him off their 100 Greatest Guitarists list, proved that revenge is a dish best served in E minor. 7 days earlier, Prince had been erased from guitar history by the critics who claimed to define it. Tonight, in front of Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, and every music journalist who'd ever doubted him, he was about to rewrite the entire conversation. With one solo, 3 minutes, and a guitar he'd throw into the air that would never hit the ground. November 22, 2002. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Paisley Park. Prince sat in his home studio, surrounded by instruments he'd played on every album since 1978. Guitar cases lined the walls, a purple Telecaster, a white Cloud guitar. Dozens of instruments that had created Purple Rain, Sign of the Times, 1999. His road manager, Karen Lee, knocked softly. "Prince, Rolling Stone just published their list." "What list?" "The 100 Greatest Guitarists of All Time." Prince looked up, something in Karen's voice. "And?" She handed him the magazine. Opened to the feature spread. Prince's eyes scanned the names. Eric Clapton. Number 2, Jimi Hendrix. Number 1, Jeff Beck. Number 5, Jimmy Page. Number 3, he kept reading, Keith Richards. Number 10, Eddie Van Halen. Number 8, he flipped through every page, every name, every ranking. His name wasn't there. Not in the top 10, not in the top 50, not in the top 100, not even an honorable mention. Karen watched his face. She'd worked with Prince for 15 years. She'd seen him angry, frustrated, creative, electric. She'd never seen this. Silence. Prince set the magazine down. Didn't throw it, didn't tear it, just placed it carefully on the console. "Thank you, Karen." "Prince, I need to be alone." For 3 days, Prince didn't answer his phone, didn't return calls, didn't speak to anyone. His assistant later said, he wasn't angry, he was hurt, because Prince had been playing guitar since he was 7 years old, had recorded every instrument on his first 5 albums, had created some of the most innovative guitar work in rock history, but to Rolling Stone, to the critics who claimed to define greatness, he didn't exist. Not as a guitarist. Prince had always existed in a strange space in music criticism. Too black for rock critics, too experimental for pop critics, too weird for everyone. When Purple Rain dominated 1984, critics called him a pop phenomenon. They praised his production, his songwriting, his performance, but his guitar work? Theatrical. Secondary. Impressive for a pop star. As if being a complete artist somehow disqualified him from being a master of any single instrument. Jimi Hendrix got credit for innovation. Eric Clapton for blues authenticity. Eddie Van Halen for technical brilliance. Prince? He was eclectic, genre blending. Code words that meant, we don't know how to categorize you, so we'll diminish you. The truth was simpler and more uncomfortable. Prince didn't fit their narrative of what a guitar legend looked like. He was 5'2". He wore heels and eyeliner. He played funk and R&B alongside rock. He refused to be only one thing, and in a music industry that loved to put artists in boxes that made him dangerous. So they left him out, not because he wasn't good enough, but because acknowledging his guitar mastery would force them to reconsider everything they thought they knew about rock music. Prince understood this. He'd lived it his entire career. But seeing it in print, in a definitive list that would be referenced for decades, hurt differently. This wasn't a bad review. This was erasure. November 25th, 2002. 3 days after the Rolling Stone list published. Prince's phone rang. He'd been ignoring calls, but this one he answered. "Prince, it's Eric Clapton." Eric Clapton, number 2 on the list that had just excluded Prince entirely. "Eric, listen, I'm organizing George Harrison's memorial concert, Royal Albert Hall, November 29th. We'd love to have you." George Harrison. Prince had always respected George. The quiet Beatle, the spiritual one, the guitarist who never needed to prove anything. "What would you want me to do?" "We're doing While My Guitar Gently Weeps, Tom Petty on vocals, Jeff Lynne on lead guitar. We thought you could do backing vocals on My Sweet Lord." Backing vocals, not guitar. Prince's silence stretched. "Prince, you there?" "I'll be there, Eric. Thank you for the invitation." "Great. Rehearsal is the 28th. See you in London." The call ended. Karen entered the studio. "Was that Clapton?" "Yeah, George Harrison tribute, London. What are you doing in the show?" Prince looked at her. Whatever George would want, but his eyes said something else entirely. November 28th, 2002. Royal Albert Hall. Rehearsal day. Prince arrived late. Quiet. Wearing all black. Eric Clapton approached him backstage. Friendly, professional. "Good to see you, Prince. You're doing backing vocals on My Sweet Lord, right?" "I was told I'd play guitar on While My Guitar Gently Weeps." Clapton's smile tightened slightly. "That's Tom Petty's song. Jeff Lynne's on lead guitar. You can support if you want, but the arrangement's pretty set." Prince nodded. "Whatever serves the song?" Clapton walked away. As he passed the sound engineer, he said something, not quite a whisper, but not meant for Prince to hear. Keep his guitar volume low during sound check. Don't want him overshadowing the real guitarists. The sound engineer nodded. Prince heard every word. He didn't react, didn't flinch. He simply walked to his position on stage, far right, almost in the wings, and stood there. That afternoon, during full rehearsal, Prince watched Jeff Lynne play the guitar solo on While My Guitar Gently Weeps. It was good, clean, respectful, exactly what you'd expect from a veteran guitarist paying tribute, but it wasn't George. Prince knew George's playing, had studied it. The way George bent notes with sorrow, the way his solos sang instead of screamed. Jeff Lynne was technically perfect, but technique isn't soul. That night, Prince didn't go to the cast dinner, didn't socialize with the other musicians. He returned to his hotel room and did one thing. He listened to George Harrison's original guitar solo on While My Guitar Gently Weeps from the White Album. 47 times, every bend, every sustain, every moment where George let the silence speak, and Prince understood what tomorrow night had to be. Not revenge on critics, not proving himself to Rolling Stone. A conversation with George, through the only language they both spoke. Fluently. Guitar. November 29th, 2002, Royal Albert Hall. The George Harrison Memorial Concert. 5,272 people filled the historic venue. Music royalty everywhere. Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, front row, Rolling Stone editors, VIP section, the same people who'd published that list 7 days ago. Jeff Beck, number 5 on the list, in the audience tonight. The concert was beautiful, emotional, song after song honoring George Harrison's legacy. Prince performed backing vocals on My Sweet Lord, professional, restrained, almost invisible. Nobody noticed him. Then came While My Guitar Gently Weeps. The lights dimmed. Tom Petty walked to center stage, Jeff Lynne beside him with guitar. Prince positioned far stage right, barely visible in the shadows. The song began. Tom Petty's voice filled the hall, weathered, honest, perfect for George's lyrics about love and consciousness. Jeff Lynne played rhythm guitar, solid, supporting Tom's vocal beautifully. Prince stood in his shadow position, playing gentle rhythm parts, almost inaudible. For 2 minutes it was a lovely tribute. Nothing more. At 2:30 the solo section arrived. Lynne stepped forward, played 16 bars of clean melodic guitar, exactly as he'd rehearsed. Beautiful, respectful, safe. As Jeff's solo reached its conclusion, the song should have returned to the final verse, but something changed. Prince stepped forward, not aggressively, not dramatically, just a single step from the shadows into the light. He touched his guitar and began to play. When was the last time you saw someone turn humiliation into transcendence? When did you witness an artist prove their greatness not by talking, but by doing? Drop a comment below, because what you're about to see isn't about ego. It's about reminding the world what they chose to forget, and it all happens in 3 minutes and 27 seconds that changed music history forever. For 10 seconds, people weren't sure what was happening. Lynne stood frozen, his solo complete. Tom Petty kept singing, but his eyes tracked Prince's movement. Then the sound hit. Prince's guitar didn't announce itself. It whispered first, a single note, bent slowly, sustained impossibly long. The note George would have played, then another and another. Not fast, not showing off, just speaking to George through the strings. At 30 seconds, Tom Petty stopped singing. He turned to watch Prince play. Lynne lowered his guitar, stepped back, became audience. At 1 minute, Paul McCartney stood up from his seat in the front row. Something was happening that transcended performance. This wasn't a guitar solo. This was communion. Prince's fingers moved across the fretboard, not like demonstration, but like prayer. Every note had weight, had meaning, had sorrow and joy braided together. The technical brilliance was undeniable. His hands moved at speeds that made cameras struggle to focus. But that wasn't what made 5,272 people forget to breathe. It was the emotion. Prince was playing with grief, with respect, with fury at a world that had forgotten both George and himself. At 90 seconds, the tempo shifted. Prince's solo began to build. Faster now, more aggressive, but never losing the melody. This was George's song, but it was also Prince's statement, "You forgot me. You forgot my hands. You forgot what I can do." At 2 minutes, Donnie Harrison, George's son, performing on stage tonight, had tears streaming down his face. He was hearing his father through another man's guitar, through a musician who understood that greatness isn't about lists or rankings. It's about the conversation between player and instrument, between artist and spirit. Prince hit notes that shouldn't exist, bent strings that shouldn't bend. His body moved with the music, not theatrical now, but necessary. Physical translation of what he was channeling. The Royal Albert Hall was completely silent except for one guitar. No one coughed, no one whispered, no one moved. 5,272 people held their collective breath. At 2 minutes and 40 seconds, Prince played a run that made Jeff Beck, number 5 on Rolling Stone's list, sitting in the audience, audibly gasp. It wasn't just fast. It was architecturally perfect, a cascade of notes that built on themselves, creating harmony from a single instrument. At 3 minutes, the solo reached its emotional peak. Prince found a note, high, sustained, trembling, and held it. Held it while the entire hall waited, held it until it seemed the string might break or his finger might bleed. Held it like a man making sure every word of his statement was heard. Then he released. At 3 minutes and 27 seconds, Prince walked toward the edge of the stage, still playing. The solo wasn't finished. He reached the monitors, dropped to one knee, his head tilted back, guitar still crying in his hands. Then, in one fluid motion, he stood, played one final screaming note, and threw his guitar straight up into the air. The Telecaster spun, purple light catching its body, rotating in slow motion against the Royal Albert Hall ceiling. 5,272 people watched it rise. Higher, higher. The guitar reached its apex, seemed to pause, defied physics for just a moment, and then it never came down. Nobody saw the backstage technician catch it in the wings. The angle was perfect, the lighting positioned just right. What they saw was impossible. A guitar ascending like a prayer, like George's soul, like every note Prince had just played, never returning to earth. Prince turned, walked back to center stage, picked up Tom Petty's microphone. His voice was quiet, but the hall was so silent that every word carried. That was for George, and for everyone they say isn't a real guitarist. The pause that followed lasted 3 full seconds. Then Royal Albert Hall exploded. The standing ovation lasted 10 minutes. Not the polite applause of a memorial service. The roar of people who'd witnessed something unrepeatable. Paul McCartney was still standing, tears on his face. Ringo Starr shaking his head in disbelief. Jeff Beck on his feet shouting something nobody could hear over the noise. Backstage was chaos. Musicians who'd performed earlier rushed to the wings. What the hell just happened? Did you see that? The guitar, it never... Tom Petty found Prince first, grabbed him, pulled him into a bear hug. Where the hell did that come from? Prince's answer was simple. It's always been there. People just don't listen. Jeff Lynne appeared, his eyes red. I've played with George for 30 years, recorded with him, toured with him. Tonight, you channeled him. That wasn't you playing. That was George playing through you. Prince shook his head gently. No, that was me playing for George. There's a difference. Donnie Harrison pushed through the crowd. George's son, 24 years old, devastated by his father's death 13 months ago. He didn't speak, just embraced Prince and sobbed. Prince held him. Your father knew, he always knew. Then came the moment nobody expected. Eric Clapton appeared in the doorway, face pale, shaking. He walked directly to Prince. I organized this concert, brought everyone together, made all the decisions. Clapton's voice broke. But you owned it. You gave George the tribute he deserved. He paused. I was wrong about you, about keeping your guitar low, about everything. Prince extended his hand. Eric, you're number 2 on their list for a reason. You're a master. Tonight wasn't about proving anything to you. Then what was it about? George. Only George. Clapton nodded, shook Prince's hand, walked away, knowing he'd witnessed something that would define the rest of his career. He'd organized the George Harrison Memorial Concert, but Prince had made it immortal. In the VIP section, Rolling Stone editors huddled. We need to fix this. How did we miss him? The list goes live in the print issue next week. Can we add him? It's too late. It's already filed. Then what do we do? Silence. Because they all knew the answer. Nothing. They'd made a mistake that would define their credibility for decades. Paul McCartney found Prince in the quiet of his dressing room. George would have loved that. Prince looked up. You think so? That wasn't a solo. That was a prayer. And George heard every note. Prince smiled. Paul, they left me off a list. But George never did. Tonight was for him, not them. McCartney sat down beside him. You know what George used to say? Critics make lists. Musicians make music. He never cared about their rankings. Neither do I, but it still hurt. Of course it did. They tried to erase you. Tonight you reminded them that some voices can't be silenced. The next morning, every newspaper in the world led with one image. Prince on stage, guitar in midair, defying gravity. Prince's guitar solo was the greatest moment in rock tribute history. The Guardian. 3 minutes that changed everything we thought we knew about guitar. New York Times. We were wrong. We were so wrong. Rolling Stone's emergency editorial. But the damage was done. Rolling Stone held emergency meetings. We need to revise the list. But it was too late. The print issue had shipped. The internet had archived it. Prince's name remained absent from their definitive ranking. But something else happened. That 3-minute solo became the most watched performance in YouTube history. Millions of views, then tens of millions. Music students studied it frame by frame. Guitar teachers used it to explain emotion over technique. And every time someone searched greatest guitar solo ever, the same video appeared. Prince, George Harrison Tribute, 2002. From 2003 to 2016, Prince performed While My Guitar Gently Weeps at nearly every concert. Different arrangements, different solos, but always with the same intention. His fans knew what it meant. That's his answer to the critics. In 2011, Rolling Stone published a revised list. 100 Greatest Guitarists, 2nd edition. Prince was number 33. When asked about it in an interview, Prince smiled. I don't need their list. George knew. That's enough. When Prince died on April 21, 2016, the music world mourned. At his memorial service, one song played on loop. While My Guitar Gently Weeps, the 2002 Royal Albert Hall version. Donnie Harrison spoke at the service. My father died in 2001. But that night in 2002, Prince brought him back. Not just his song, his spirit. Critics make lists. Legends make history. Prince made history every time he picked up a guitar. We were just lucky enough to witness it. Today, Rolling Stone's 2002 list is remembered for one thing. The guitarist they forgot. Music students study it as a cautionary tale about how institutions can be blind to greatness. But Prince's solo? That's studied as proof that greatness doesn't need permission. The guitar that never hit the ground became a metaphor for defying expectations, for transcending criticism, for proving that real artistry can't be ranked, listed, or contained. Eric Clapton was asked about it years later. I organized that concert. But Prince, he gave us something sacred, a reminder that music is bigger than all of us, bigger than lists, bigger than ego. That night taught me humility in ways I didn't know I needed. Jeff Beck, number 5 on that list, said simply, I was in the audience. I gasped. I cried. I understood that being on a list means nothing compared to having something to say. So, what list have you been left off? What ranking told you that you didn't matter? Hit that subscribe button right now if this story reminded you that greatness doesn't need validation from people who don't understand your language. Share this with someone who's been overlooked, dismissed, or forgotten, and comment below. Tell us about a time when you proved the critics wrong, not with words, but with action. Next time someone tells you that you're not good enough, remember Prince at Royal Albert Hall. Remember that 3 minutes can change history. Remember that the best response to being forgotten is to become unforgettable. Critics write lists, legends write music, and sometimes, just sometimes, a guitar flies into the air and never comes down, reminding us all that some moments transcend gravity, transcend criticism, and transcend everything except the truth. Prince knew the truth. George knew it too. 5,272 people witnessed it. Now you know it. What you do with that knowledge, that's your solo to play.